There has always been an invisible battle between Prince William and the Sussexes, one filled with silence, tension, and unanswered questions. For years the conflict lingered, never truly ending. But now it seems William has finally decided to draw the line. With one shocking announcement, he confirmed tragic news about Meghan's future, sending waves of disbelief across the UK. The moment felt heavy, final, and impossible to ignore. What exactly did William reveal, and why now? Was this meant to bring peace after years of drama? Or has it opened the door to an even bigger royal storm yet to come? William's shocking announcement. The first indication that something extraordinary was about to happen came when Prince William's office sent urgent messages to major news organizations requesting their presence at Kensington Palace within 2 hours for an unscheduled announcement of significant national importance. The message provided no details about the subject of the announcement. It simply stated that Prince William would be making a personal statement and would not be taking questions afterward. The unusual nature of the request and the short notice sent journalists scrambling to reach the palace, while speculation exploded across social media about what could possibly warrant such an emergency press conference. Camera crews and reporters rushed to set up their equipment in the designated area at Kensington Palace. The atmosphere was tense with anticipation and confusion as everyone tried to guess what William might announce. Some speculated about possible health issues within the family. Others wondered if there had been some kind of security incident or threat. A few sharp observers noted that Harry and Meghan had been unusually quiet on social media for several days and wondered if this announcement might somehow involve the errant couple who had caused so much turmoil since leaving the royal family and moving to California. When William finally appeared before the assembled media, the first thing people noticed was his appearance. He looked tired and strained with dark circles under his eyes, suggesting he had not been sleeping well. His jaw was set with determination, but his eyes betrayed emotional turmoil that he was struggling to control. He was dressed formally in a dark suit, but without the military uniform he often wore for official announcements. He carried no notes or prepared statements, which suggested he planned to speak from the heart about something deeply personal and painful. William began by thanking the media for coming on such short notice. He said he had an announcement to make that had been decided after months of painful discussion within the royal family. He paused and took a visible breath before continuing. He stated that the royal family had made a final and irreversible decision regarding the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. The couple would be permanently stripped of all remaining titles, privileges, and connections to the monarchy effective immediately. There would be no further negotiations and no possibility of reconciliation or part-time royal duties in the future. The cameras captured William's hands trembling slightly as he continued speaking. He said that this decision had not been made lightly or hastily. The family had tried for years to find some accommodation that would allow Harry and Meghan to pursue their independent lives while maintaining some connection to the monarchy. But it had become clear that such an arrangement was impossible. The couple's repeated public attacks on the family and their unwillingness to respect even basic standards of confidentiality and discretion had made continued association untenable. William then said something that caused audible gasps from the assembled journalists. He stated that Meghan specifically would never be welcome at any royal event or on any royal property again under any circumstances. This applied to weddings, funerals, coronations, and even private family gatherings. The decision was final and would not be reconsidered regardless of any future appeals or changed circumstances. William's voice was firm, but there was unmistakable pain in his expression as he delivered this brutal pronouncement that effectively exiled his brother's wife from the family forever. He continued by explaining that Harry could potentially maintain some limited family contact in extremely restricted circumstances, but that Meghan's complete separation from the royal family was non-negotiable. The children, Archie and Leet, would not be recognized as having any royal status or place in the line of succession. They would be treated as private citizens with no claim to titles or privileges. This represented an unprecedented severing of family ties that went beyond anything the modern monarchy had done before, even during previous scandals and family conflicts. William concluded his statement by saying that he had been authorized by the king to make this announcement on behalf of the entire royal family. The decision had the full support of King Charles, Queen Camilla, and all senior working royals. He emphasized that this was not just his personal position, but represented the united judgment of the institution. He then turned and walked away without taking questions, leaving behind a room full of shocked journalists who immediately began broadcasting news of the announcement to the world. Within minutes, the story dominated every news channel and social media platform. People struggled to process the implications of William's announcement. The permanent exile of Meghan and the severing of ties with Harry represented a dramatic escalation that no one had predicted, despite years of increasing tensions between the Sussexes and the rest of the family. Questions immediately arose about what had prompted such drastic action at this particular moment. What had happened behind the scenes to push the family to this point of complete rupture? Meghan's past that haunted the palace. From the very beginning of Harry and Meghan's relationship, palace officials had deep concerns about her background and history that they feared would create problems if she joined the royal family. Meghan was not the typical candidate to marry a senior royal. She was American, which was not unprecedented, but was unusual. She was an actress, a profession that carried associations with publicity-seeking and image management that contradicted royal values. Most troubling to traditionalists within the palace, she was divorced, carrying baggage from a previous marriage that had ended badly. Meghan's first marriage to film producer Trevor Engelson in 2011 lasted only 2 years before ending in divorce in 2013. The circumstances of the split remained somewhat murky, but rumors suggested that Meghan's growing ambition and her desire to elevate her career had contributed to the breakdown. Some reports claimed she had essentially abandoned the marriage when better opportunities presented themselves. Engelson reportedly felt blindsided by how quickly Meghan moved on and how little interest she showed in maintaining any connection after deciding the marriage no longer served her purposes. This history raised red flags about Meghan's loyalty and her willingness to discard relationships when they no longer benefited her. More problematic from the palace's perspective was Meghan's career in Hollywood and the specific role she had played before meeting Harry. Her best-known role was Rachel Zane in the legal drama Suits, a show that ran for several seasons and gave Meghan her highest-profile work. But palace officials who reviewed her past work were disturbed by some of what they found. The show included romantic storylines that featured Meghan in intimate scenes with male co-stars. While these scenes were relatively tame by Hollywood standards, they were shocking to senior royals who believed that anyone marrying into the family should have maintained standards of modesty and discretion in their professional work. Deeper research into Meghan's career uncovered more troubling material from her earlier years trying to establish herself as an actress. She had done various modeling work in small roles that included provocative photo shoots and appearances in contexts that palace officials found deeply inappropriate for someone who would become a member of the British royal family. There were photographs from men's magazines and websites where Meghan had posed in revealing clothing or suggestive positions. There were small roles in films and television shows where she played characters in intimate situations or where the content was crude and lowbrow. Palace advisors compiled detailed files documenting Meghan's past work and warned senior royals, including the Queen and Prince Charles, that these materials would inevitably resurface and cause embarrassment once Meghan's relationship with Harry became public. They were proven correct almost immediately. As soon as news broke that Harry was dating an actress, tabloids and websites began publishing every provocative photo and scene they could find from Meghan's career. The palace found itself in the position of having a future princess whose past included material that contradicted everything the monarchy claimed to represent about dignity, modesty, and moral standards. Some within the palace argued that Meghan's past should disqualify her from marrying Harry. They pointed to historical precedents where potential royal matches had been rejected because the candidates did not meet the institution's standards. But the world had changed since those earlier eras, and it was no longer possible to simply forbid marriages based on class or background. Harry was not the direct heir to the throne, which gave him more freedom in his choice of spouse, and public attitudes had shifted to where many people would see rejection of Meghan based on her career as snobbish and outdated. Still, the concerns persisted and shaped how the palace approached Meghan's integration into the royal family. Officials decided that they needed to carefully manage her image and rehabilitate her public persona to make her acceptable as a royal. This meant controlling what she wore, what she said, and how she appeared in public. It meant establishing strict protocols about her behavior and her interactions with the media. It meant essentially trying to erase Meghan's past and recreate her as someone who fit royal expectations. But this approach was doomed from the start because it required Meghan to become someone fundamentally different from who she actually was. She had built her career and her identity around self-promotion and image management and carefully cultivated public attention. She was not suited by temperament or experience to accept the restrictions and protocols that royal life demanded. The palace's attempts to transform her into an acceptable princess were frustrated by her resistance to being controlled and her resentment at being told she needed to change. The cultural differences between American celebrity culture, where Meghan had operated, and British royal tradition created fundamental misunderstandings. From the beginning, Meghan had learned in Hollywood that success came from being noticed and from actively managing public perception through media engagement and strategic appearances. The royal family operated according to opposite principles, where dignity came from restraint and where seeking attention was considered vulgar and inappropriate. These opposing worldviews made conflict inevitable, the marriage that divided the family. When Harry first introduced Meghan to his family, the reactions ranged from polite reserve to barely concealed dismay. William was particularly cautious and urged his younger brother to slow down and really get to know Meghan before making any serious commitments. William's concerns were not based on snobbery or prejudice, but on genuine worry that Harry was rushing into a relationship with someone he did not fully understand and who might not be suited for the impossible demands of royal life. William had seen too many people struggle and fail under the pressure of constant scrutiny and rigid expectations. The Queen met Meghan several times during the early stages of the relationship and came away with serious reservations that she expressed privately to close advisors. Elizabeth was a shrewd judge of character after decades of meeting thousands of people from all walks of life. She sensed something performative and calculated in how Meghan presented herself during these meetings. The Queen felt that Meghan was playing a role rather than being genuine, and this artificiality concerned her. She worried that someone who could not be authentic in private moments would crack under the sustained pressure of public royal life. Prince Charles had his own concerns that centered on the vast differences in background and experience between his son and Meghan. Charles valued tradition and continuity and worried about how an outsider from such a different world would adapt to the peculiar culture of the British monarchy. He also worried about the racial dynamics that would inevitably come into play given Meghan's mixed-race heritage and the reality that some segments of British society and media would react with prejudice. Charles feared that Harry and Meghan were not fully prepared for the challenges they would face. But Harry was deeply in love and refused to listen to anyone's concerns or advice. He interpreted his family's caution as prejudice and rejection of Meghan. He became defensive and angry when William tried to discuss his reservations. Harry accused his brother of snobbery and of not wanting him to be happy. The brotherly relationship that had been close and supportive for their entire lives began to fracture over Harry's determination to marry Meghan. Regardless of anyone else's opinion, William felt that Harry was making a terrible mistake, but recognized that pushing too hard would only drive his brother further away. The wedding in May 2018 proceeded with great public fanfare and celebration. Millions watched as Meghan walked down the aisle at St. George's Chapel in Windsor. The ceremony was beautiful and moving and seemed to represent a hopeful new chapter for the royal family. But behind the scenes, the family remained deeply divided. Some members attended out of duty while harboring serious doubts about the marriage. Staff members who had gotten to know Meghan during the engagement period were already worried about how difficult she could be and how little interest she showed in learning the protocols and traditions she would be expected to follow. From her very first days as the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan clashed with palace staff over rules and expectations that she found arbitrary and restrictive. She resented being told what to wear and how to style her hair for public appearances. She objected to protocols about when she could speak publicly and what topics were appropriate for her to address. She found the hierarchies within the palace system offensive and treated people she considered subordinate with dismissive rudeness. Multiple staff members who tried to help her adjust to royal life reported being subjected to angry outbursts and unreasonable demands. The most serious problems emerged around Meghan's treatment of her personal staff. She went through multiple assistants and aides within her first year as a working royal, with people quitting after short periods of working for her. The official reasons given for these departures were always diplomatically vague. But gossip within palace circles painted a picture of Meghan as a nightmare boss who made impossible demands, changed her mind constantly, blamed staff for her own mistakes, and created an atmosphere of fear and tension. Some former employees compared working for Meghan to psychological torture. When formal complaints about bullying began to reach senior palace officials, an internal investigation was launched to examine the allegations and determine what action, if any, should be taken. Multiple current and former staff members were interviewed about their experiences working for Meghan. The investigation concluded that there was substance to the complaints and that Meghan's behavior had violated policies about workplace conduct and respect for employees. But the full results of the investigation were never made public, and no visible consequences followed for Meghan. This secrecy led to speculation that the palace had found evidence of serious misconduct, but had chosen to suppress it rather than deal with the public relations nightmare of admitting that a senior royal had been bullying staff. The tensions between Meghan and the rest of the royal family intensified throughout 2018 and 2019 as it became clear that she had no intention of adapting to royal expectations and that she resented the institution's attempts to control her behavior. Stories began appearing in the media about conflicts between Meghan and Kate, between Meghan and palace staff, between Meghan and various other royals.